This is the town that's in both Hong Kong and mainland China. A border runs directly through it. This town is called Sha Tau Kok. This road, Chongying Street, acts as the literal divide. On one side lies mainland China, and on the other, the special administrative region of Hong Kong. For the residents of Sha Tau Kok, their daily lives are bisected by this border. Every day they traverse Chongying Street, seamlessly transitioning between Hong Kong and China for work, school, grocery shopping, and family visits. So, how did Sha Tau Kok come to be in such a unique situation? In 1898, Hong Kong Island and the peninsula of Kowloon were already under British colonial rule. However, driven by the need to accommodate a growing population and counter the rising influence of other European countries in China, the British sought to acquire more land. Leveraging their most favoured nation status, they entered into a lease agreement with the Qing government to secure additional territory. This newly acquired expanse of land came to be known as the New Territories, with the Shenzhen River serving as the defining border between British Hong Kong and mainland China. The river border cut through the existing settlement of Sha Tau Kok, which was already a bustling market town inhabited by the Hakka and Hoklo Chinese sub-ethnic groups. While two districts of Sha Tau Kok remained under the governance of the Qing government, the remaining districts fell under British colonial rule. Remarkably, residents on both sides enjoyed the freedom to move between Hong Kong and China, fostering a dynamic exchange between the two regions. A few decades later, the once shallow Shenzhen River, which had served as the border dividing Sha Tau Kok town, gradually dried up, leaving behind a mere trail. Resourceful residents took advantage of this change, constructing houses and shops on both sides, thereby creating a new bustling commercial centre. They named the short 250-metre thoroughfare Chongying Street, literally translating to China England Street, an obvious reference to the British governance of Hong Kong and rule of China on the opposite side. Boundary stones were placed directly in the centre of the street, demarcating one side as part of Hong Kong and the other as belonging to China. Yet, daily life in Sha Tau Kok continued much as it always had. Residents readily crossed Chongying Street to carry out their routines, going about their business as if a border did not divide their town in two. But things were to drastically change in the mid-20th century. The turbulent Chinese Civil War of the 1940s unleashed a wave of mainland Chinese refugees flooding into Hong Kong. In response, the British colonial government set out to formally demarcate the boundaries of their colony by erecting fences along most of the frontier with mainland China. However, Chongying Street in Sha Tau Kok remained an open and permeable border. In 1952, the British colonial government extended their control further by cordoning off villages in close proximity to the China border, including Sha Tau Kok, within a restricted zone called the Frontier Closed Area. Access to this land was strictly limited to residents and individuals possessing permits, effectively barring the majority of people in Hong Kong from visiting. The Frontier Closed Area not only aimed to counter illegal immigration, but also acted as a deterrent against smuggling activities and potential espionage efforts from the newly formed communist regime across the border in China. Sha Tau Kok became a politically sensitive area, where British Hong Kong police officers and Chinese Liberation Army soldiers found themselves face to face along the border road of Chongying Street. At times, direct confrontations occurred between the two sides along the divided thoroughfare. Some observers have even drawn parallels between Sha Tau Kok and the demilitarized zone that separates North and South Korea, highlighting the tension and significance of the location.
Chief Inspector Taylor has a delicate diplomatic job policing a town divided by a border that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because the Chinese say it doesn't. To them, Hong Kong is part of China. Yet the non-existent border is patrolled by very real guards with very real guns.
In 1967, tensions reached a boiling point. Amidst the height of pro-communist riots engulfing Hong Kong, demonstrators and members of the People's Militia crossed Chongying Street and launched a violent assault on Hong Kong police officers. 5 police officers were killed in a brief exchange of fire. But there was another huge change for Sha Tau Kok on the horizon. In the 1980s, China's central government embarked on sweeping economic reforms that ushered in a new wave of prosperity. This economic upturn breathed new life into Sha Tau Kok, which had previously experienced a period of decline. Beginning in 1983, both the Hong Kong and Chinese governments allowed mainland Chinese to enter Sha Tau Kok, triggering a resurgence of economic growth in the town. Thousands entered and went to Chongying Street border road to buy Hong Kong and foreign goods. A unique experience for many mainland Chinese who'd been living in a closed communist society. A staggering 100,000 visitors were recorded in one day. Sha Tau Kok was the only place in Hong Kong that mainland Chinese could freely visit. A relatively undeveloped town, which was far away from the glitz, glamour, and dense urban metropolis of Kowloon and Hong Kong Island. So for 2 decades, Sha Tau Kok became a boomtown. But things changed again 2 decades later. The Chinese government implemented the individual visit scheme in 2003, wherein mainland Chinese could freely visit Hong Kong on an individual basis without being part of a tour group. And so Sha Tau Kok lost its value as an exclusive accessible shopping zone, and the town faded into obscurity once more. In recent years, the post-colonial Hong Kong government has been rolling back parts of the frontier closed area, opening up rural areas and villages that were previously inaccessible to most Hong Kongers for over 60 years. However, the elusive town of Sha Tau Kok has remained tucked away in the frontier closed area, restricted only to the residents living there. Until quite recently.
The Hong Kong government is planning to open up Sha Tau Kok in phases for development and cultural tourism.
The government began issuing tourist permits for people to visit Sha Tau Kok as a way of reviving the town's economy. And so I went to visit. Chongying Street, the thoroughfare that divides the Hong Kong and China side of town, is unfortunately off limits to visitors, who are stopped at a police checkpoint. However, residents of the town can freely cross the border street, just as they have done for generations. The town retains old Cantonese-style Tong Lao buildings, a rarity in the rest of Hong Kong, where many have been replaced by towering high-rises. Furthermore, despite the literal border dividing the town, there is a palpable sense of community that permeates its streets, fostering a strong bond among its residents. As Hong Kong deepens its integration with mainland China through initiatives like the Greater Bay Area, Sha Tau Kok faces changing regional dynamics. Improved infrastructure could further blur the once tangible borders that saw the town represent cross-boundary contrasts. However, Sha Tau Kok's deep historical role ensures its symbolic importance endures. As Hong Kong transitions into China, this town encapsulates Hong Kong's unusual position under British rule before returning to Chinese sovereignty. For those seeking to understand the region's evolution, Sha Tau Kok offers tangible lessons in Hong Kong's changing status, embedded within its landscape. As integration progresses, the divisions of the past may gradually fade away, but the significance of Sha Tau Kok as a window into Hong Kong's journey from being a former colony to becoming a part of Chinese territory will remain firmly entrenched in the narratives of the region for generations to come.